Alright guys, my name is MetaGoblin and today we're going to be counting down the top 5 most powerful weapons from Naxxramas but will still be good during the Burning Crusade, although I am going to have a little bit of a sneaky bonus weapon. What's interesting about these weapons is that a lot of the time they are equally, if not better, than some pre-raid TBC best in slot pieces. I could definitely see people will be using these items into Karazhan and maybe sometimes even longer than Karazhan because the stat stick that they provide is just simply better than any of the options. Just before we jump in guys, I would appreciate if people quickly subscribe to the channel and give me a quick follow on Twitch. I'll be streaming over there much more very soon. But anyway, first of all, we have the biggest Big Daddy weapon in the entirety of vanilla World of Warcraft called the Might of Menethil. Some people have speculated that this is in fact the mace of Arthur's Menethil. Obviously he's running around that a lot in Warcraft 3, and this is the evil version of it. It is obviously the highest damaging weapon possible in Classic WoW. Nothing provides any more damage than this when we're talking about weapons individually, especially because of that incredibly slow speed of 3.8 seconds. Warriors drill when they see a 3.8 second weapon speed weapon because obviously slow weapons scale entirely off the warrior abilities like Mortal Strike, Slam, Heroic Strike and everything like that. This means it isn't just the white basic attacks of a warrior that are pretty big, but all of his abilities. It often means that a slower weapon with worse stats will be better than a faster weapon with better stats. When people start getting this weapon in Battlegrounds are going to get very scary. It will outmatch most pre-raid best in slot options for an arms warrior. You will basically just have to wait until you craft Storm Heralds or Deep Thunder, whatever you are crafting, before you can really replace the Might of Menethil. Although you probably will replace it by one of the extremely good swords if you can, but like I said, most arms warriors are just going to go balls to the wall with Blacksmith. For people who are tryharding PvP, I wouldn't be surprised if people continue to use this in TBC Battlegrounds until they farm enough honour to get all their gear, and then they can start doing arenas to grind up for their arena weapon. So I can even see this weapon having a little bit of a brief moment in the arena. Secondly, we have the Gressil Dawn of Ruin. It's a bit disturbing, this weapon, because if you look at it very closely, it is actually animated, it is actually alive, or undead, whatever, and you just see this big gaping mouth with some chattering teeth. It's strong for the same reasons that the previous weapon is strong. It's a very slow weapon for a one-handed weapon, which will scale with a Rogue Sinister Strike. It will scale with a Fury Warrior's Whirlwind, particularly as Whirlwind will actually deal damage with both melee weapons in TBC. This means when a Fury Warrior gets a better option from TBC Heroic Dungeons, then they'll probably still keep Gressil in their offhand. I think it'll last even longer for Rogues though, because a lot of the pre-raid best in slot options are mainly fist and mace options, and obviously sword spec is infinitely better for a rogue because of sword specialization, which has a chance to proc an extra hit. So really you're going to be waiting until you get the Vindicators brand that requires Exalted Reputation with Aldor, which obviously takes ages and requires an immense amount of money. So Gressil's definitely going to be brought into Karazhan. For number 3 we have the Hammer of a Twisting Nether, which is an extremely overpowered healing weapon. What's interesting about all these weapons is they quite literally drop all from the same boss, Kel'Thuzad. But anyway, so this has 238 healing power. Okay, TBC Dungeon Loot doesn't even come close to this. And the other stats are very nice on this weapon too. The only item that can really replace this is the Shatari Mace from Exalted Reputation, but again, that takes a very long time. We're going to be farming the Tempest Keep dungeons over and over for hours and hours, probably using this mace, because yeah, nothing really comes close to it. So until you've grinded out Reputation, or you've gotten lucky with some good drops in Karazhan, you're probably going to be using this mace for quite a while. For number 4 we have the Nerubian Slavemaker. So this is an insanely good range weapon for hunters, but also a really good stat stick for the melee. It's going to last for ages for a melee because it's obviously quite difficult to get a decent stat stick because normally they just get given to the hunters. But anyway, the speed is absolutely ideal for a TBC hunter for when they jump into raids and everything, because it will interact very well with the ability called Steady Shot, which is this new spammable ability that hunters are going to use a lot in their rotation. So Steady Shot is a very interesting ability because it's very similar to Aim Shot, however it has a cast speed of 1.5 seconds, and what you're trying to do is fit in 2 steady shots before your auto shot goes off. And obviously if you have a 3.2 weapon speed weapon or a 3 second speed weapon, you should theoretically be able to squeeze in you know, obviously bearing in mind latency and everything like that, 2 steady shots before you're both, you know, auto shots go off. So overall this weapon is going to fit into the hunter rotation very nicely, and you may look at other weapons which provide more damage and obviously have more stats on them that you can get from dungeons, but I still think this weapon will be better because for that perfect weapon speed. And honestly, a lot of the pre-raid best in slot pieces have worse stats anyway, and the stats on the Nerubian Slavemaker are actually totally best in slot perfect for a Beast Mastery Hunter. For number 5 we have the Doomfinger. Okay, this may appear boring at a first glance, but this weapon totally trumps pre-raid best in slot loot and even all of the tier 4 raid loot when it comes to pure stats. I know it's obviously not that interesting because it's a wand, it doesn't really get used as a weapon that much, but I just found it interesting how vanilla World of Warcraft loot could actually be better than Burning Crusade loot. And a little bonus I have for you is the Claymore of Unholy Might. Okay, I think this is going to be insane stat stick for a hunter because it has 98 attack power, nothing comes close to that. Even Legacy from the Opera event doesn't have 98 attack power, although it makes up for it for the agility stat obviously, so the only time you're going to replace this really huge stat stick is when you actually do get Legacy from Karazhan, although there may be some half decent weapons you can get by farming a lot of reputation. So again, it takes a long time to farm reputation, so people are going to be holding on to this Claymore for a very long time in TBC. I always found how it's very interesting that there isn't a huge jump in gear stats from Classic WoW to TBC on retail when a new expansion comes out. You know, sometimes the stat stick jump is absolutely huge and just quite frankly ridiculous. You know, can you remember when Legion came out and everyone went from having about roughly 300 to 400,000 health to suddenly having over 1 million health, which was just ridiculous. And even a jump up from Wrath of Lich King to Cataclysm, like most people would have about 30 to 40k health in Wrath of Lich King, and then all of a sudden it was over 100k. These huge jumps in stats obviously make the previous raid tier gear totally redundant, which obviously you can either love or hate because it kind of, you know, you spend a lot of time farming raid loot, and then for it to suddenly just become totally redundant whenever you do the next quest in an expansion to kill a few boars, it kind of feels a little bit irritating and underwhelming. But obviously I think the main reason why Blizzard did this huge jump in stats is to, you know, get so everyone gets that exciting feeling of getting new gear, you know, when they do quests and go out to the open world and do stuff. I think some guilds might actually go back to Naxxramas to farm it when they are level 70, since it's still worth it for some of the set bonuses and the trinkets. And yeah, like if you are severely lacking on getting a good trinket as a spellcaster, you can definitely go back and get your hands on a cheeky trinket from Saffron, for instance. But anyway, I've got videos about the amazing trinkets in Naxxramas coming soon, and I've also got a video about what set bonuses are going to be useful in TBC too, so I recommend checking that out. Might leave it in the description if I remember. But anyway, my name is MetaGoblin. To my next video, ciao.